on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Yeah, this little light of mine, well, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, now this little light of mine, well, I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, this little light, we all gotta let it shine, amen. Let it shine, yeah, let it shine. Oh, let your little light shine, even in the darkest hour now. We still gotta let it shine. Even in the darkest hour, we still gotta let it shine. Well, even when you really don't feel like it, we all still gotta let it shine. Amen, let it shine. Yeah, let it shine. Oh, let your little light shine. Come on, put your hands together. This little light of mine now, oh, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, now this little light, I'm gonna let it shine. I said this little light of mine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, it's so good to be here today. My name is Vince Anderson, all the way from New York City. First time in Florida, and I love it. I'm a real New Yorker now that I've been in Florida. Took 27 years, but here I am. I'm gonna let it shine. Yeah, let it shine. Oh, let it shine. Let your little light shine. Well, everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere, with glory bound. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere, with glory bound. Yeah, one more time, here we go. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere, with glory bound. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody, everywhere, with glory bound. And this little light of mine, well, now I'm gonna let it shine. Well, now this little light, we all gotta let it shine. We need your light, I need your light, and you need my light too. So let it shine, let it shine. Let all little lights, let all little lights, let all little lights, got to let them, gotta let them, gotta let them, gotta let them shine.
Well, hello, Marco Island and friends of this beautiful city. We are so glad to be here. Now, my wife and I, we've been vacationing here for the last 10 years, and we've been looking forward to this day and so glad to be back with you. So grateful to the Democratic Women's Club of Marco Island for having us out today. Thank you, fine women. We appreciate it. Now, friends, our little band of Vote Common Do-Gooders has been traveling around this country, spreading the message of faith, hope, and love. And just the other day, we all woke up to the very disturbing news that the President, Mr. and Mrs. Trump, have contracted the coronavirus. Many of their friends and co-workers. It sits heavy on all of us. We think of the hundreds of thousands who have died in this country and around the world. We think of the millions of people that are infected with the virus. and we think about Mr. and Mrs. Trump, and we desire, we ask, we pray, invite you to join us in praying for their full and complete recovery, as we pray for all those who need to recover from the pain of this virus. But we're here today not only for that, we're here today because we believe that this country needs to heal and recover from the devastating effects of Donald Trump's presidency, and that's what we're doing here today, and we're inviting you to join with us in that action, friends. Now, salt of the earth, light of the world, we're here for a good old-fashioned truth-telling now, because we've all been hearing some things that don't sit so well with our souls, friends. We've been hearing people say that if you're truly a Christian, you have to only vote for Republicans, and we are here to remind you that just ain't so, Christian friends. You've been hearing that all the news is fake, and we're here to remind you of that news that we call good, amen? You've been hearing people say only America first, and we're here to remind you of Jesus' teaching to care for the least of these, wherever you find them. Can I get an amen from you? You've been hearing people tell you that all you have to do as a Christian person is vote to stack the court, and we're here to remind you you could gain the whole world and lose your very soul. You've been hearing people say close down those borders, and we hear Jesus saying welcome the little children. You've been hearing people say what makes you a Christian is that you care about the Second Amendment, and we are here to remind you of the Second Commandment, which is to love your neighbor as you love yourself. You've been hearing people say all around this country, go grab your guns and defend yourself, and we're here to remind you of the sword of the Spirit and the shield of faith and the helmet of salvation, friends. You've been hearing people tell you that your tax break is all you have to think about on Election Day, and we're here to remind you that you cannot serve two masters. You've been hearing people say build a wall and separate the families. We're here to tell you that which God has brought together, no one should ever separate. You've been hearing people shout and interrupt from debate stages to parking lots, and we are here to tell you that we are not going to be stopped by anybody yelling or shouting and screaming, and we're glad to have you all with us. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you might think that we're going to be here trying to convince you that Donald Trump is unfit for office, that Donald Trump is dangerous, that Donald Trump, because of his crassness and his corruption and his cruelty. You might think we're here to tell you all that, but friends, we believe the man's like a self-cleaning oven. He does all the work for you. We don't have to convince you of any of that. You already know that to be true, right, friends? Now, friends, we're not here to remind you how bad this president is. That's been clear to all of us with the failures in this country and this administration. We are here to remind you how good you are, and we're here to remind you that you're good people, that your people are going to be called to the common good, right, ladies and gentlemen? So we're here to call you to a much greater goodness than anybody has called you to before. So, friends, look, this is a bipartisan event. We're inviting Democrats, Republicans, Independent, Green Party members, even anarchists to all vote against Donald Trump on Election Day. But friends, we also believe that everybody is the light of the world, every one of us here, a beloved child of God. We believe that every child of God, the light of the world, even Donald Trump, a light of the world. But not every light of the world should be the President of the United States, and this man needs to take his little light and let it shine somewhere else and stop bothering the good people of this country, because no matter how much people try to shout you down, you're going to let your little light shine. Isn't that right, Vince? Let's let that light shine, my friend.
Oh, shine on, let it shine on. Let your light from the lighthouse shine on me. Shine on, let it shine on. The light from the lighthouse shine on me. Shine on, let it shine on. The light from the lighthouse shine on me. Oh, let it shine on. Let it shine on. Let your light from the lighthouse shine on me.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Whoa. I'm so happy to be here, y'all. Man, thank you for sharing this time and space with us. Man, thank you all for coming. Everybody in the back, thank you for coming. You know what's interesting? My name is Genesis B. I'm an activist and rapper from Biloxi, Mississippi. And my whole life, you know what I've been doing? I've been speaking truth to power to white supremacists, to their face. That's what I've been doing since I was 12 years old. My father did that, my grandfather did that. I'm from Mississippi, y'all, so I know about white supremacists. I understand the cowardice that is behind white supremacy. I see you throwing up the white supremacist sign at me. And I just want to assure you all that we do not fear white supremacists. That's how I was raised. My grandfather fought against white supremacy. My grandfather was a troublemaker, so much so that he was shot into his house, shot at his children, his pregnant wife. That's what the cowards did, the cowards who call themselves white supremacists. Small, weak men who have to travel in groups because if they stood alone, their weakness would show, their fear would show. They don't have the intelligence to stand alone, so they stand in groups and shout. Oh, I love my job. Oh, wow. So this piece is called Mississippi, the Microcosm of America. Mississippi just retired its state flag. It had the Confederate emblem in it. For the last 5 years, I've been fighting to remove the Confederate emblem from the Mississippi state flag. You might have seen my work in Breitbart. You might have seen my work in Billboard and New York Times. There was a reason why I decided that we had to take that flag down and have a new unifying flag. And it was such a sweet victory, y'all. 120 years that flag flew. Confederate ideology, the lost cause. See, Mississippi is a microcosm of a nation. Police exoneration and mass incarceration. Black and brown bodies, a commodity. Mothers separated from babies, border policy. And that didn't start with Trump, let's be real. It didn't start with Trump. See, our nation and our White House is painted in the Klan's ideology, and our leadership is exploiting white poverty. Keeping us separate and divided, gay versus straight, white versus black, based off of fear and far from the facts. See, I hail from a state called the mighty Mississippi. It's the land of unsolved murder mystery. I'm triggered by the trauma in my own family history. Because my dad was only 5 when the Klan drive by, bust bullets into his house with 6 children inside. On the back of the truck, a Confederate flag flying high. And these are the truths that you choose to deny. See, Mississippi, like America, eats your child and mine. The white supremacist lie is a prison of your own design. You forfeited your humanity in order to deny mine. Yeah, hold it up proud. Yeah. Yep, gotta let it breathe. Let the energy of the crowd breathe. My brother. See, Mississippi is a microcosm of a country where cowards replace white sheets with fake avatars, repeating their parents' folklore, tooth fairy Santa Claus, the history's whitewashed. Google black codes and bylaws in the comment section, sound off, sound off. Lord, they sound off, don't they? They call me a nigger, a bitch, or a dyke. You call me whatever you like. I've been through worse in this fight, and the hatred in your words just proves that I'm right. See, Mississippi is a microcosm of a country that always needed me but never wanted me. My melanin and skin is a sin, sentenced to build your economy. Pack the prisons, fill the quota, make us felons, never vote us. Travel bans and deportation, killer cops, no resignations. Just federal indictments and mock trials, you see. My heart bleeds as the billboard reads, make America white again, as my favorite rapper concedes. Kanye. Making me question everything that I believe. And still, I love America. I do. I love my country. Because I have hope. Some choose to jump ship, and some steer the boat. See, I know that love and humanity lives in the smile of every child, in the heart of every kid. So be brave enough to break the curse. We need you at the polls, out in droves, fighting against the bigots you oppose. Study law, run for office, make a call, write your Congress. Use your voice or choose a march. Ruth is gone, grab the torch. Read a book, write a rap. Just speak with truth and deal with facts, please. Alt-right affiliations of Trump's administration, Confederate infiltration, neo-Nazi showing faces. Just fueling the fear and the hatred while expanding their corporations. Do you see now how Mississippi is a microcosm of our nation? I'm Genesis B, y'all. I love you.
My name's Vanessa. I'm an artist and a pastor and a wife and a mom. I'm pretty new to the tour. I'm not a professional speaker. I got a chance to, on this tour, take my son to see the little Bible college where his parents met, where his grandparents met. A little Bible college. A little fun place. One of those places where you can't smoke or drink or dance or go to movies. But I had a good time there. You gotta understand where I came from. See, my parents sent me to a little private Christian school, doing their best, trying to give us a good education. But I can only describe that place as a dark place. I know what a dark place looks like. Some of you do too. That dark place, I describe it that way because I think about when I was 6 years old, much like my little 6-year-old girl, I walked through the hallway and I reached out to touch a bulletin board because I was curious. And my teacher took me by the shoulder and took me around the corner and locked me in a dark closet. And it didn't get better as I grew up. You know, every time you'd walk in the door, they'd look you up and down to check to see if you were okay, if you measured up, and if your skirt measured down long enough. Measure your worth. And there was rules all the time, one executive order after another. One year they made a rule that you couldn't wear socks and pantyhose at the same time because that looked too much like Madonna. I don't mean the mother of Jesus. So yeah, I had a good time in that little Bible college, and I went there a few years ago for our 20th class reunion. And when I got done with the 20th class reunion, we were tired, and we went back to the hotel room, and we turned on the news. And the news that night was the Access Hollywood tape. Do you remember the Access Hollywood tape, women? Yeah, you do. You do, because you remember hearing how Trump bragged how he could do whatever he wanted to a woman. He could touch her without her permission. He could invade her space, her personhood. He could deny that personhood to take whatever he wanted. And we all know what we heard. And I remember thinking, good. Because all those people that made all those rules for me about what women could do and how we could be in the world, they're never going to stand for this. And this is the end of this guy. And it's over. But we know what happened. We know how that turned out. And so the day after the election, my friends joined at my house and we mourned. And I know that some of you felt the same way because you know what it feels like to have a bad man, an unsafe man who has power over you, who's now in charge of your well-being. You know how that feels and you know how scary it is. And so my friends began to get involved. They began to go to marches and they began to stand up for things. And I didn't know what I was going to do because I grew up Republican. You see, that was my team. My team was the Republican Party. I went to the booth. I voted for the R. That was my job. That was my team. And that's who I was supposed to belong to. And we had a deal. I did my part and they were supposed to protect me. And they didn't keep their side. They didn't keep their end of the bargain. They were not going to protect me from a bad man who was not going to keep me safe. So I had to figure out what I was going to do. And so a year ago, it got real clear. A year ago on August 3rd, I was shopping. All my kids were home, and we all went back to school shopping at Walmart like we do. And I live in Arkansas, and we had the kids all in my little mom van, and I held up my phone to take our picture, and I brought the phone down and looked at it so I could post on Instagram. And when I looked at my phone, there was a breaking news alert. And that alert was another shooting. More violence. That shooting was in El Paso. And as the news, the details about that shooting began to come clear, I began to feel more and more heartbroken for my country. Because that shooter, first he posted a picture of all his guns shaped out in Trump's name because he figured that would impress him. And then the eyewitnesses began to tell us that the shooter walked through that store and he looked over white faces and white bodies, and he saved his bullets for the people of color. And my heart broke because my child, my third child, is brown. She's adopted. You know, they told us to be pro-life, and so we adopted, and I brought this child in, and I tried to save her, but she saved my life. But I realized that my child was not safe in this country. It's one thing for mamas to not be safe, but it's a different thing when your kid isn't safe. And so that's when I began to realize I had to do something. And you know what I did? I got on a plane. And I flew to El Paso because I needed to understand what was happening there. I needed to see it with my own eyes. And I went and I saw that long memorial with those people's hearts that were so broken. And I saw that ugly border wall. You know, in New York, we have Lady Liberty. And in that border, we have the ugly wall. And I saw the detention center where you couldn't get very close, but those children inside separated from their mommies and daddies. And those women's bodies where we've learned just recently about how women's uteruses have been stolen from them without their consent, their power taken from them, their futures taken from them. And I thought about those children. You see, I know what it's like to be in a dark place where people don't have good rules and policies for you. You see, that school that I went to when I was a little girl had a monster. We talk about Trump being a monster, but our school had a monster too, and he lived under the stairs. And you would go down the hallway to try to get to the office, but you had to pass by where he was. And nobody could see his room because you were around the corner, but that man, he preyed on little girls, and he touched them without their permission, and he didn't care about their personhood. He took from them without their permission, that monster under the stairs. And you know, they tried to tell their story. And the men, those good religious voters who were in charge of that school, they gave that man a love offering and sent him on his way so that he could do it again. I know my story is not unique. I know that in this crowd, in a group of faith people, that we have all seen evil. We know what evil is. We know it exists. But there's a special kind of evil. When you know that evil is happening and you don't do something about it. You see, the last 4 years for so many of us have been like a walk by the room where the monster is, where his hands have reached out in overreach, with his executive orders and his tweets shoved down our throats, and we don't feel safe. Do you feel safe? Back then, we needed a pastor, we needed a priest, and we got a pedophile. And now we need a president, and we have this piece of work. So I am asking you to please do not give the love offering of your vote to this man. I am a mother. I am a biological mother. I am a spiritual mother. I am an adoptive mother. And I am asking you to vote like a mother.
Yes, thank you, Vanessa. I can't imagine the life choices that lead you to booing and honking at a mother sharing her story. I ask you to reconsider your life choices and maybe listen and use a little bit of empathy. My name is Daniel Dietrich, and I am a worship pastor for the last 14 years. I grew up in the church, grew up Republican. That was the only thing I knew. And it was a beautiful place to grow up. I learned to take the words of Jesus seriously. Things like Matthew 25, what you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. I learned about the Beatitudes, that blessed are the poor. Blessed are the babies. And I learned about the fruit of the Spirit. Peace, patience, kindness. And that's why I was so confused in 2016 when 81% of white evangelicals voted for a man that looks nothing like the way of Jesus. Because things like hatred are incompatible with the way of Jesus, and white supremacy is incompatible with the way of Jesus. And so I wrote this song for my brothers and sisters and siblings. It's called Hymn to the 81%. And it is a plea to come back home to the way of Jesus. And I hope you listen. I grew up in your churches, Sunday morning and evening service. I knelt in tears at the foot of the rugged cross. You taught me every life is sacred. Feed the hungry and clothe the naked. I learned from you the highest law is love. And I believed you when you said I should trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. I assumed you'd do the same, so imagine my dismay when I watched you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, so I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, so I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Oh, they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies. And I look to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence. Or worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. See, your fear had turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language torn from the pages of the good book. You weaponized religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your walls. You said to love the lost, so I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, So I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. Come home, come home. You're better than this. You taught me better than this. Come home, come home. You're better than this. You taught me better than this. Come home. Come home, boy, you're better than this. You taught me better than this. Come home, come home, come home. Softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling, calling, oh sinners, come home. You said to love the lost, I'm trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth, that's why I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome and justice roll down. 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 Thank you so much. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you for that song, the hymn for the 81%. Dan, I'm not joking. That song, it takes me to church every time. And I hope that it's taken you to church, even though we're not in a church building and we are in this parking lot. So thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. Everyone here and everyone out there, thank you for being here. My name is Nick Brock, and I am a military veteran of 10 years, thank you, with the United States Air Force, Security Forces. And I've spent 3 tours in Southwest Asia on 3 deployments to combat zones where I carried 210 rounds of 5.56. Perhaps some of you back there know what I'm talking about. And 30 rounds of 9mm. And I carried around my M4 carbine rifle and my Beretta 9mm, right? So that's part of who I am. Anyone back there serving the military? Anyone here? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you. We are indebted to each and every one of you who do that. So that's just a bit about me. And I'm also from Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids is home of Beer City, USA. So yeah, this guy's got a tattoo of the Detroit Tigers representing Detroit. Yeah, Detroit, right? So Grand Rapids, Beer City, USA. So if you ever make your way to Grand Rapids, I suggest that you go to New Holland Brewery and have Dragon's Milk. It is 11% alcohol by content, and it'll give you the beer shivers. So drink it slowly.
But Grand Rapids, to me, where I hail from, is a stronghold of the religious, let me back that up. It is a stronghold for the Republican Party and conservative Christian values. It's within this political and religious context where Biden signs pale in comparison to Trump signs, and where church buildings pepper the landscape. I have chosen to say yes to Vote Common Good. And I've chosen this because Vote Common Good has provided for me the space, context, vocabulary, and permission to say no. No to the re-election and politics of Donald Trump, and yes to the politics of Jesus. Let me briefly explain how I arrived at this place. In a New York Times article written this past summer by Elizabeth Diaz, Diaz accounts of a story from 2016 where then candidate Trump was on the campaign trail in Sioux City, Iowa, one of the most conservative Christian communities in our nation, a place not unlike my own and perhaps similar to yours. And while there, he addressed a crowd of eager and white evangelicals, and he said this: Christianity is under a tremendous siege, whether we want to talk about it or we don't want to talk about it. Christians make up the overwhelming majority of this country, and yet we don't exert the power that we should have. Christianity will have power. If I am in the White House, you're going to have plenty of it, and I am going to represent you very, very well. Remember that. In effect, Donald Trump wanted to cut a deal with Christian voters and have them sign their name on the dotted line. And they did, to the tune of 81%, as we just learned, of white evangelical voters and 60% of white Catholic voters. But the politics of Trump, Trumpism, a species of hysterical intolerance and oppression built on demagoguery, intimidation, and a cult of personality, sold you a bill of goods that was and continues to be a false, distorted, and hijacked view of the Christian narrative for power found in the life and teachings of Jesus. In stark contrast to this Trumpism, the politics of Jesus consistently undermine our meaning and understanding of power at every turn. Even when he was lynched upon a tree, crucified, both tactics used for ethnic intimidation to enforce law and order while the oppressors stand back and stand by. This naked, brutalized, dehumanized, non-white Jesus, suffocated under the knee of a system that said his life does not matter. And yet, Jesus wanted his fledgling group of friends, religious scoffers, and political elites to reimagine where and how power from above manifests here below, on the streets and in the public squares and in this parking lot. You see, the way Jesus died 2,000 years ago at the hands of the Roman Empire is as relevant and subversive as it is today in 21st century America. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The politics of Jesus, where on earth as it is in heaven, is not just a short form prayer to climb the rungs of the spiritual ladder. It is also a public policy statement about how the space between heaven and earth becomes so microscopic thin that you would not be able to differentiate between the two.
All lives, not black lives. All lives matter.
Until Black Lives Matter.
All lives matter.
And the framework of this Constitution, of the politics of Jesus, may sound familiar. It goes like this: and let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be exploited, but emptied himself, taking the form of a slave and being born in human likeness. And found in this human form, he emptied himself, humbled himself, and became obedient to the point of death on a cross. Therefore, God highly exalted him. Friends, the way to transformational power is not through the ascent of your ego. It is not through the ascent of your stock's worth or your 401k retirement plan. It is not through the ascent of our religious institution or your church denomination. And it most emphatically is not through the ascent of your political institution. The power, the way to power that transcends the powers and principalities of this world, that transcends and crosses the divide between you and me, that brings us together, begins in recognizing moments such as this one. Critical moments that call us to go beyond our own selves and to give our own selfish needs, to give up our own selfish needs for dominance, violence, and exploitation, so that, listen to this, so that resurrection becomes not just something that happened 2,000 years ago, or it's something that will happen in the distant future, but is something that happens right here and now. In other words, your kingdom come, your will be done. In closing, friends, in the final analysis, Donald Trump is right. And I bet you didn't expect that coming. Christianity will have power, and plenty of it. It's just that Trump and his enablers have not yet concluded that Christianity, we already possess it, and we have since before 2016, because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh, and we saw Jesus full of grace and truth. In closing, I have chosen to say no to the politics of Donald Trump because my yes recognizes the earthquaking power of the politics of Jesus, where humility and self-emptying obedience to grace and truth carries within it all the momentum needed to rise up and protest the interference of a large and cumbersome stone that stands in the way of an uprising. Can I get an amen? Friends, may you choose. Friends, may you choose not to go right with your politics. And may you choose not to go left. But may you choose to go deeper. Deeper into the politics of Jesus, who by the power of his work within us is able to accomplish immeasurably more than all we can imagine. And may you seek faith, hope, and love until November 3rd, and for every day after that. Peace be with you, friends.
Thank you, Nick. We're all suffering. We're all on the cross right now. Come from New York City. where the pandemic really raged through our city. I lost many friends, 11 musicians, to this terrible disease. And on my mother's 80th birthday, on July 28th, she was diagnosed with COVID-19. Sent immediately to a hospital, field hospital, because there was no room in the hospital. So a field hospital, my 80-year-old mother. She lost a lot of weight, went down to 82 pounds. And the doctor called me from the field hospital and said, "Your mother's not doing well. We need to put a feeding tube in her to get her to have her calorie intake back up. And we need permission to do that." And I, of course, said, "Yeah, I give you permission." And then just a few minutes later, the nurses from that hospital called me up and said, "I know the doctor just called you and said that we need to put a feeding tube in your mother, but we don't agree with the doctor right now. That we feel if we put a feeding tube in your mom, that she won't make it." So those nurses asked me, they said, "What is your mom's favorite food?" And I said, "Pot roast, meatloaf, cottage cheese with cantaloupe, and chocolate chip cookies." And those amazing nurses of that hospital went home that night after working a 14-hour day, risking their lives for my mother. They went home and cooked my mom meatloaf, pot roast, and chocolate chip cookies. And my mom ate them. And she got her strength back. And I'm here today to say that she's okay. And I want to thank all the essential workers that are putting their lives at risk. That's what America is about. We are already here. We're already here. We just need to follow through. Amen? So this one goes out to my mom, Maureen, and to all the essential workers that are putting their lives on the line to make ours survive. Amen? I know that times are tough and many doors are closed. We step into the light, only wind up feeling alone. They say we should walk by faith and not to walk by sight. But damn, it's dark out here now, and it's hard to see at night. Sometimes the tears, they don't stop, no. And I wonder, will we just dry up and blow away like the sand, all alone in this dry land? In the wilderness, we cry out, is anybody there? Is anybody listening now? Yeah, does anybody care? Friends, please don't give up. 'cause we need you now. We need you now. Please don't give up, no, 'cause we need you now. We need you now, right now. Let me see those hands. Let me see those hands. Yes. Well, please don't give up, no, 'cause we need you now. We need you now, yeah. Please don't give up now, 'cause we need you now. We need you now. Please don't give up, 'cause we need you now. We need you now, right now.
That's Vince Anderson, as he told you. Thank you, Vince. We do need you. We need all of you now, friends. This is a little part of our little gatherings that we like to say is a Harvey Milk moment, if you know what we're getting at. Because we're here to recruit you, friends. We'd like to take you with us, and we'd like to travel around the country with us. Now, we can't take you in this big, beautiful bus of ours because we're staying safe COVID-wise. But there's a couple ways we'd like to put you in the tank with us, if you know what I'm saying. And that is to visit us over there at the participation tent. We'd love to send you home with a shirt or with a button, with a sign, or with a set of postcards. We have a set of postcards over there with a Christian message on one side, a blank spot on the other for you to write your own message, 15 postcards in a pack, and then 15 mailing addresses of Christian voters right here in this area, because you can't go door to door, but you can go mailbox to mailbox, friends, right? You can do that, so we'd love to take you with us, because there are 4 things that get our big, beautiful family around this country. You know 3 of them already. Keep talking about it. Faith, hope, and love. You know what the 4th is? Diesel. Diesel gets us around the country. So you make a contribution over there, and we turn that contribution right into diesel. It's magic right before your very eyes, and it'll take us all the way over to Fort Lauderdale tomorrow, up to Fort Myers tomorrow, Fort Lauderdale on Wednesday, back to Sarasota on Saturday, up to St. Pete on Sunday, and then we're making our way back up to Atlanta and all the way back up to through Pennsylvania, and then over sitting outside the White House on Election Day to represent all of you outside the White House. So we'd like to take you with us. We'd love to have you do that. And we want you to feel like you're part of a movement, because we know that sometimes it can feel hard when people are gathering around and they feel like they're not supporting you. And we want you to know you're not alone. We've been meeting people like you all over the country, and there's a big movement happening. We'll tell you what, friends, change is coming on Election Day, and you are a part of it. So we love preaching to the choir, because, friends, we know that sometimes the choir has lost its tune, and we're glad to sing a song with you. We'd like to sing a song with you again on November 3rd. So we're really glad to have you with us. Now, we've got a couple of beautiful parts. This is a part of the program we've done so far that we get to do each and every day when we travel doing these events. We hope you've enjoyed it. We certainly love it. This is our little band of Vote Common do-gooders. But for the rest of our little afternoon out here, you're going to get to hear from people locally after you hear from Steph, who's out of Nashville, Tennessee. Then as you're going to hear from people right here on this island, you're going to hear from people that are running for office right here on this island. So this is going to get really fun here in a little bit. So we're super glad that you're with us. And when we're all done, we'd love to invite you to see us over there at that tent. And then someone named Jason from the island and I are going to have a conversation right here. If you want to stick around for that, we're going to have a conversation about all this shouting and all this yelling and what we're doing, something we set up and made an agreement about. So after we're all done here, we'd love to see you back here. If you want to stick around here, Jason and I have a civil conversation with one another. But without further ado, our friend, Steph Meehan, out of Nashville, Tennessee, who's now been with us for 4 events. And Steph, we couldn't be more glad to have you, my friend. And cheer for her, would you, like you know her already, and then we'll see you when we're all done over there at the participation.
I kind of at the last second decided to do this song just because we're not all that different. I mean, really, truthfully, in our heart of hearts, we want all love. We all laugh. And we all love our babies. And I keep hearing baby killers. And truth is, we love our babies, and we take care of them after they're born, too. And it doesn't matter what color they are. Black, white, yellow, red. Jesus loved the little children. And the good thing is that another thing we have in common is we all have grace. And we all have it, and we just have to look for it sometimes. And I decided to do this song because, and I don't know why I'm so emotional today, because we all love each other, you guys. If we just loved each other, it would be so much easier. I wrote this song. I did not write this song. I wish I'd written this song, but this song was written by an old slave owner. He enslaved a lot of people. And one day, he was on the slave ship, and he saw how badly they were treated. And when he got off the slave ship, he fell to his knees, and he wrote this song. He let all his slaves go free, and he set them free. And don't we all want to be just free? Anyway, this is called Amazing Grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Many a heartache, toil and sin, I have already come. It's grace that brought me safe this far. Yeah, and grace will lead me home. We've been there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun. We know less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. No less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. Amen. Love each other. Everybody here, just love each other. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Brian McLaren. I have had a connection here on Marco Island since 1961. I was 5 years old, and my family went on vacation up at Sanibel. And my dad used to like to take long drives, so he just drove us down Route 41 and saw this little right turn that's now San Marco Road, and we came across. Back then there wasn't the big bridge, there was just a wooden swing bridge down by Goodland, where the Goodland Bridge is. We came across that, and my dad fell in love. Back then none of this was here. In fact, at the beach you could drive a dirt road, a gravel road right up to the beach, and there were lots of big Australian pines lining the shore. And my dad just thought this is the wildest, most authentic, natural place he'd ever been in Florida, and just fell in love. And so we kept coming back for vacation. Back then you couldn't rent a house. There was basically nothing here.
we end up at Sanibel and drive down here and spend our days on this beach. We kept coming back through the years on vacation. Once houses were built, we'd rent a house. Then when I was a pastor for 24 years in the Washington, D.C. area, and when I left the pastorate, my wife and I said, gosh, we could really live anywhere. I make a living as a writer now. And we said, why don't we go to Marcos? So we moved down here 11 years ago, and we moved my parents down and so that they could live here as well for their final years. And in fact, my dad is buried just on the other side of that Australian pine over there. And last year, my mom was buried there too. So we have deep roots here, and we love this place. And I want to tell you what is going to guide my voting as a citizen of Marco Island. I want to tell you why. On November 3rd, you may disagree, but I want to tell you why I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, and why I'm going to vote for Sarah McFadden, and why I'm going to vote for Cindy Bonnier. I'm so proud and happy to be able to vote for them, and I want to tell you why. First is because of the planet. This is a beautiful place. Most of us came here because we love this place. We love the water, we love the air, we love the birds, we love the sand. We love this beauty, and we want to preserve it. And our environment is in trouble. It's under threat. And unfortunately now we have a president who doesn't take those threats seriously. But more and more of us do, and we realize we've got to stand up because it's fires in California, it's hurricanes here, it's droughts, it's all kinds of serious problems. And so because we love this planet, we want to vote for people who take the threats to it seriously. Now listen, I say this not just because I live here, but I also say it because of my Christian faith. When I read in the Bible, in the first chapter of Genesis, it says that we human beings were made as part of this creation. And in the second chapter of Genesis, it says that our first job was to care for and protect this earth. And so that's deep in my faith, and it affects my voting. Second thing I want to tell you, in addition to the planet, I'm going to vote for these people because of poverty. Look, I couldn't afford to move here to Marco Island now. I don't make that much money. I moved here right after the financial crisis when the housing prices plummeted, and my wife and I could afford to live here. We couldn't afford it now. I'm not poor, but I'm not rich. But most folks who live here on Marco Island are doing pretty well. You know, if you want to be in the 1% globally, all you have to make is $35,000 a year. So a lot of us are, in the big picture, we're doing okay. But listen, when I moved here to Marco Island, I got involved with something called the Coalition of Immokalee Workers. And I started going up to Immokalee and working with the people who pick the tomatoes that I eat and pick the oranges that I eat and do the hard labor under the physical sun, under the hot sun, that physical labor that all of us depend on. I have a great deal of respect for anybody who works by the sweat of their brow. And so when I vote, I don't want to just vote what's best for me or for people who can live at a place like Marco Island. I want to vote for what's best for everybody. And then again, it's not just because of where I live, it's because of my theology. Because I live by the teaching of Jesus that says, love your neighbor as yourself. And when you see common good here, that means you care about your neighbor as well. By the way, that means all my neighbors who are part of the different Trump supporting groups, the things you care about, I care about too. But I don't want to just care about those things. I don't want to have to choose between caring about the lives of good, honest police officers and black people who get shot by police disproportionately. I want to care for both. We've heard a number of people care about unborn babies. Listen, I care about unborn children. I care about born children too. And I want to care about both. When somebody tells you you don't have a choice, you either have to be pro-life or pro-choice, I want to say, I want to be pro-life and I want to be pro-choice. And so it's because of that I care about the planet poverty. One last thing. I care about peace. And we're going to have to get along. Can I tell you something? Anybody who showed up from Marco Island and Collier County today, it was a little intimidating to have to drive in through here. All you folks who are here, you might not have meant to be, but it's a little intimidating. It took courage for people to show up here today. And listen, And listen, I want to thank everybody who turned up and the folks who've turned up in opposition, because we got to figure out a way to get along here on Marco Island and in the state of Florida and in Collier County and in the United States and around the world. And we're not going to learn to make peace if we keep shouting slogans at each other. We got to listen to each other. We got to take a chance to understand each other. And I want to say, for all the folks who are sort of not part of this event but are witnessing it, I want to say to you, thank you for having the courage to listen. Thank you for listening respectfully. Thank you for being willing to hear somebody else's point of view, because we've got to figure out how to get along. Whoever wins on November 3rd, I want to ask you a question for all the Trump supporters here. After November 3rd, if Trump wins, am I still safe here? Do you still want me as your neighbor? Thank you. And I want to tell you something. If Joe Biden and Kamala Harris win, I want to be sure you're safe. And I want to be sure the best happens for you. And because we've got to learn to live on this planet, caring for the poor as well as the rich, and working for peace. And that's why in just a minute, I'm so happy, and I hope you'll listen with respect, because not only think about how much courage it takes to show up at this event, but think about how much courage it takes to be Sarah McFadden and running for state legislature. And think about the courage of Cindy Bonnier over here, who has the courage to run for Congress. And I hope you will listen to them and hear what they have to say from their heart. We got a few more minutes before some rain's going to come in, and we want to hear from them in just a minute. Thank you.
Land is my land, California, New York Island, the redwood forest, Gulf Stream water. This land is made for you and me. Yeah, this land is made for you and me. Land is your land. This land is my land, California, New York Island, the redwood forest, the Gulf Stream waters, yeah. Oh, this land is made for you and me. Yeah, this land is made for you and me.
Vince, that was beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you to our musicians, right? We got a hand for our musicians and our speakers. They've traveled all over the country, and I am proud to be here to listen. And I am so proud to have so many here, for whatever reason, to witness faith, hope, and love. I want to thank specifically Brian McLaren, who I've known for some time. It's a pleasure to meet his wife today. Thank you to Doug and the crew. This is a public gathering in a public park, and all are welcome. I'm Sarah McFadden. I'm running to be your state representative. Thank you. I'm an experienced administrator who's also owned and operated a small business. I live 10 minutes away on Isles of Capri. I know sometimes that's called the Isles of Debris. But I shop here on Marco. I'm a member of the Democratic Women's Club here, and was co-founding as an original board member. I've worked hard my whole life to be a dedicated community volunteer and civic leader. I have a background in regional, state, and local politics. As the Democratic nominee, I honor our flag, respect our veterans, and believe in our state and U.S. constitutions. No one party owns these deep American values. And no one party owns God. I believe in the separation of church and state as our country's power, and the reason our system of government has lasted this long. But you deserve to know more about me than just my resume. You deserve to know about my faith. My faith informs my character. I respect all cultures and religions and affirm love, peace, and justice. But I don't have a faith-based agenda. Our country is a country of pluralism, many different faiths and none. Religious liberty is the freedom of religion and also the freedom from religion. In the last 5 years, I've been trying to do the right thing for the right reason at the right time. Was it a coincidence that the person who sat down next to me was just the person I had to meet? That happened so often that I began to save a seat next to me, to be open-minded, positive, patient, even curious, open to what would happen next. I was rarely disappointed. The same thing happened when I spoke with people. That curiosity about why they felt as they did. Much later, I became aware of this quote from Seneca, really old school. Fate leads the willing and drags the reluctant. Looking back, while trying to do the right thing, I realized I was inspired by and assisted by fate, by whatever you name it, karma, serendipity, or even divine providence, by willing and open to where it led me. Before running for office, I hesitated. I liked who I was. I didn't want to be tempted to change, to become less. I thought I was running a risk of a negative change when what has happened is actually positive. As a candidate, my faith has become strengthened by the circumstances of fate, by looking outside myself, striving for fairness. I've become stronger, not weaker. Doug has told me this is not uncommon with candidates, which I find thrilling and fascinating and gives me hope. I take the word representative seriously. Being available and listening to you, no matter what party or none,